Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free, impartial advice on all your debt.
Oscar Bevis, IFL TV, MTK Global, delighted to be joined by the gentleman, Bournemouth's answer to Evander Holyfield, and one day the Canelo crusher. We'll come on to all that. How are we, mate? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, mate. You all good?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. A quick sorry as well, because I've pestered you since you got back to England, and I know you're obviously a bit jet lagged from the trip to Texas.
Yeah, a little bit, mate. I've been a bit up and down my sleep, to be honest, but I think I've nailed it today. So fingers crossed.
It's weird because obviously a fight being that so early on in the year and you not being on the fight card. I know Luke's a stablemate of yours, and you know it's not uncommon to see stablemates go out and support fighters in scenarios like that. But yeah, I suppose you had to make a sacrifice over New Year and a sacrifice over your Christmas period as well when you're not fighting. So there was sacrifice that you had to make.
Yeah, well, it was only I went out on the 27th, so I didn't miss Christmas or anything. You know, Luke was away from his family and for like 2 weeks, I think. Obviously got a newborn son as well, so I think he was the one making the sacrifices, mate. To be honest, we had no plans for New Year anyway, so it gave me something to do and gave me something to look forward to and be excited about. I was obviously I love going to any boxing show, but especially when it's one of your gym mates and on a big show like it was as well. So it wasn't too much of I wouldn't really call it a sacrifice, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I say sacrifice. I know I would have made the sacrifice to be able to come out and watch it. So, bubble scenarios abroad. Obviously, you've done a bubble over here. You'll have media duties, and guys like us will want to speak to you. But out there, the media focus obviously strongly on the main event, on Ryan and Luke. What did sort of the day consist of for yourself? Was it sort of trailing Luke and just keeping everything tight knit and keeping the spirits up, I suppose?
Yeah. Sorry. Hello.
He's back. There he is. Yeah, go on.
It was just with the bubble. It was sort of just the hotel. I think they had 7 floors of the hotel that was that they'd taken up for the fighters and stuff for the rooms, and then we had the second floor as well of the hotel, which was all like where all the media was and our meals were and stuff like that. So yeah, it was just sort of just chilling out all week and keeping Luke in good spirits, playing a bit of chess and stuff like that with Shane and Luke, and just I was doing my own training as well over there. We had a gym upstairs, so I was training that, doing my running and my weights and everything up there, and it was just sort of business as usual. Apart from there's no getting away from the bubble. It's just everything's in house, then back up to your rooms, because obviously you couldn't leave the hotel for 4 days. So it was Wednesday to Saturday. So yeah, it was it's always a bit strange when you're in one building, but it was a big enough hotel, and like I said, we had the gym and the pool on the roof. So it was all right, and we made the most of that. And Luke chilled out and just went about his business as usual, really.
And obviously, being that confined bubble scenario, I know a couple of US journos that I followed on Twitter. They've sort of highlighted how Ryan has done what many fighters don't. ESPN will speak about boxing in the States, but they rarely cross over to sort of the New York Times and the mainstream outlets. Ryan's done that crossover. Did you notice in there that the media attention on Ryan was, even being in a bubble situation, was like mega? Did you notice the massive attention towards Ryan?
Yeah, obviously the amount of people that were around on the whole show was huge. But it was at the press conference and noticed that most, they got off stage and probably about 30 cameras flocked to Ryan. Luke went and did the zone. And then that was about it. I think a few people asked him while he was on his way out, but it wasn't really people he was familiar with, because obviously a lot of them are American. It wasn't like any of the big American ones that he does know of. So he just did the zone interview and then sort of shut off, and just he wasn't really bothered by it. He's not that sort of kid to crave the media attention or anything like that. But I thought the media out there were just obviously all over Ryan with his massive following, especially on social media and all that. So it was obviously heavily for him.
I was going to say, does that suit Luke? Because obviously when he fought Loma over here, the media attention, because it was in the UK, was not just on Loma coming over, but Luke. Obviously the workout at York Hall was mega, the press conference, it was all massive. But over there, did he sort of like it a bit? Just get off the stage and, you know what, I'm quite liking this. I ain't got 30 people, because as much as he's a star, Ryan, I can imagine having all that cameras, and they do scrums over there as well. I can imagine it's all quite intense.
Yeah, I think that suits Luke, just to sort of, he's not one to, he's probably too long in the tooth now to, you know, been in the game too long to overly care about media attention and stuff like that. It's probably just wouldn't do a presser if he had his way, sort of thing, just because he can't be bothered with it. He just wants to fight. So yeah, I think it's sort of suited him, to be honest.
Well, look, it only counts for so much media attention. Fight night's where it matters. What was the buzz like? Because I don't know what the time would have been exactly out there, but they were main eventing over here like a Saturday night fight night. So obviously it was quite an early start for a main event. What was the buzz like sort of in the morning and going into when you got to the arena?
Yeah, it was good. Obviously made weight the day before, and he all good spirits the night before. Got a good night's sleep, but then yeah, it was 5 p.m. I think ring walk over there. I think it ended up being about 20 past 5. But yeah, we weren't. They were only allowed a certain number in the change room, so it was like the corner +1, and the +1 was for Barry, obviously. So me and Jake McGrigan, change brother, were just outside the change room basically the whole night. They had a little screen outside the change rooms. Change rooms were right next door to each other as well. So you had like Ryan's team going out and hanging around out there as well. And then a few like media, like the zone people and stuff like that. But yeah, we took a walk into the arena on the fight night and stuff, and sort of had a look around the arena, and obviously it was quite full considering what we're used to at the moment. I think there was 6,000 in there in like a 18 or 20,000 seater, so it's a lot different to over here. But the you know, I sort of left Luke in the change room quite early on, and then I saw Ryan's team doing their practicing the ring walk, because obviously I had to carry him in, and there was like me and Jake have walked out to have a look at the arena, and we seen him. I looked at it, I was like, that's a throne, like they're going to carry him in. I was like, oh my god, like. And then one of the lads had got in the lift with me, Barry, and Josh Pritchard earlier on in the week, and said like, "Oh, come in peace," because he knew we were obviously Team Campbell, and I think he was Ryan's best mate, and he was carrying him. Blah, blah. And we went and sat back down outside the change room. They were doing this big sort of like practice rehearsal, and he's walked back past me, and I went, I said, "Don't drop him," and he like looked at me and goes, "What?" I go, "Don't drop him," and he like laughed, and I said, that's Luke's job." And then he said to me after the fight, he said as soon as Luke dropped him, all he could think about was me saying that. So that was pretty funny. We had a good laugh at it after the fight and stuff. Obviously back at the hotel after things had calmed down, but yeah, it was a good show. It was nice to see fans back. It was, as much as it was a hostile atmosphere, a lot of boos as we were ring walking and stuff, which I didn't really expect because of the sort of fighter Luke is, but I guess because Ryan's fans are who they are, they obviously made it very hostile, and he comes in on a throne and all that. And to be fair to the lad, he put on a performance worthy of it. So he's a special fighter for sure.
Well, yeah, we all know the height of royalty is a throne with a GoPro on the front. So yeah, the fight. Let's talk about before and up until the big shot that Luke landed in the second. Up until now, what were you sort of taking from the fight? So obviously the way you look at it, you'll look at footwork and distance, and it's everyone will know it's much easier in person to tell at times. What were you taking from the first round and perhaps minute and a half until Luke dropped Ryan?
Yeah, well, the first round he got backed up quite early on. He sort of tried to take centre, but then he got backed into the corner where Luke probably spent about a minute, but you could hear Shane and all of us wanting him to get out of there, but it was how he was going to get out of there. It was almost as soon as he moved, Ryan would have thrown, because he would have just been off balance. So he did the right thing. In that sense, once he's in the corner, I think he held his feet and sort of just, you know, triggered him up and down, sort of with the front hand, made him think, kept him mentally engaged, and did a good job of doing that in that first round. Although, you know, Ryan won the round, it was Luke sort of took some shots on the gloves, and I think it was obviously with Ryan's power and the way his previous fights have gone, it's important to get through that first round unscathed and maybe feel the power a little bit, but obviously don't want to take shots. He obviously felt the power in his gloves and stuff. But yeah, and I thought it was, you know, first round you sort of expected to give away, and early on in the fight we were sort of expecting to give away a few rounds, and then obviously the second round Luke started finding a bit more of a rhythm and started jabbing to the body well, and obviously set up that little feint up, feint down, and shoot over the top with the left hand. He brought his feet round with it really well and landed flush from the chin, which was absolute beauty of a shot. And I think a lot of lightweights would have stayed down, but he was up at 2, which was just crazy seeing the way he went down. So it was just very much just a bit of a shock in the whole arena that Luke had dropped him, but at the same time, how quick he got up and how quick he recovered. He obviously ended the round pretty strongly as well. But yeah, so up to then it was a bit nip and tuck really, and sort of as expected, to be honest, with Ryan sort of trying to dominate with his speed and his power. But that's the problem with him. He's always dangerous, Ryan Garcia, so you can't just go after him even when he is hurt. So I think that was Luke's thought process.
I mean, it was a mental 20 seconds, because obviously the shot lands. I imagine, like the rest of the UK, you leap up screaming, and obviously the attention focuses on Luke trying to finish him. And when I saw the replay, I did think it's so flush. How he managed to get up so quickly was remarkable. Is that the biggest positive for Ryan, I suppose, because we knew he was powerful, and for his biggest step up to have the gut check and come through, is that the asset that people questioned? So that's sort of the biggest positive for Ryan, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke to him the next morning at breakfast, and sort of that knockdown, I think, could be the making of him, because to make him a mistake like that in what was a massive step up, which people I think are underestimating. Like he boxed nobody, like no disrespect to his previous opponents, but the level of what they are, like I believe that Luke Campbell would have stopped every one of his opponents. So he's gone, 20-0 with 17 knockouts against very low level opposition compared to what Luke is. So for him to come through the way he did, and obviously it was a big step up, which proved to be in the second round. He made a mistake and Luke set it up really well. But I think for him, that's going to be the making of his career. A lot of greats get knocked down and get back up to win, and it showed he's got a good chin because he got hit flush and got straight back up, and 2, that he's got a lot of heart to come back into a fight like that, even though he was getting nailed to the body quite a lot throughout the fight, which looked like they were doing damage and taking a little bit out of him. But so he had all that against him. Obviously got knocked down on a massive show and a massive step up and came through it, and I think you can only admire the lad for that.
Can you sit there now, Chris, and tell us that the game plan that was put in place for Luke by Shane and by the team was executed? So, we've seen people in big fights say, I didn't just do this, I didn't quite, and there's bits of excuses at times. Can you tell us categorically that the game plan was executed and it just wasn't enough for Luke?
Things Shane doesn't really do. He does things in fights. It's not like this is the game plan. You have to do this, then you're going to do this and this. It's very much sort of letting us box how we box, but not making mistakes. One of those things, all I knew from the fight was, look, Luke, you can't fall in with that backhand. And that proved at the end of round 5, he fell in with the backhand and he got picked with that left hook. And that was the exact reason that Shane had told him that he couldn't do it. And that was obviously a massive shot. I think that showed that Luke's got a very good chin as well, because although he was all over the place, although his legs were going, his hands came right up, and then the bell went, but he didn't go down from the shot. But yeah, I think obviously if there'd been a bit longer in the round, it wouldn't have been very nice to watch. But I think he came back in the 6th round, had a half decent round considering how bad the end of the 5th. How bad it ended. But yeah, I think that was the main mistake Luke made there in the fight. With regard, like I said, regards to the game plan, maybe I don't really know what it was, but I also think we weren't sure what Ryan was capable of and things like that as well, like because we hadn't had to see it before. We knew he was a good kid, like in the gym and in the build-up. We knew he was a good lad with quick hands and powerful shots as well. But yeah, he asserted his dominance quite well as well, and looked box really confident. And yeah, he really showed he is a superstar in the making.
Well, obviously, round 7, Ryan delivers the body shot, sucker body shot. I mean, I remember thinking at the time, surely that's got cracked ribs or something, because it looked in full speed just mega. But yeah, we know what happens then. He calls out a few guys. I want to talk a bit later about how you think he'll fare against some of those guys, Tank and Haney. But I want to delve into the post-fight stuff. So obviously the change rooms, we saw like the footage and the respect between Ryan and Luke, and Canelo was in there, Eddie Reynoso, Shane, and you know, you get the pictures and all that, and there's all that respect. What was that like? Because I don't know, they must walk around with an aura, because you've got the pound for pound king in Canelo, Ryan, who's touted to be a superstar. It must have been quite cool being in there. I know Luke obviously lost, and there would have been some somber feelings between the team, but must have been quite nice and quite cool being in that atmosphere for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, Luke said, look, I want to go and see him. You know, he's like, I think I should. And so he went in there and showed his respect, which is, you know, sort of the measure of the bloke, because you saw the state well, I don't know if you did see the state he was in the ring after. He was absolutely devastated. And he obviously absolutely distraught with how the fight's gone. But to go straight in there into that sort of what might seem quite a brash kids changing room as well, so it's almost harder. But to be fair to Ryan, I think that's all for show. He came across as a real nice kid, one in the changing room, and when we spoke to him the next day, he knows how to play the game when it comes to social media, and he does it really well. But he was nice. They were very respectful in the changing room. I didn't really get involved. You know, Shane and Luke went through the group of cameras, and they just you know, he said congratulations, said some nice words to him, and they got a lot of respect for each other. And I think Ryan will always have Luke to thank for the rest of his career, if it goes the way that it looks like it's going, because I think that was a massive test for Ryan, and one he obviously came through, and without those sort of tests, you know, you don't get to the top. You need to make those mistakes. But yeah, in the change room, it was, you know, I think Luke and Shane got a photo with Canelo and Ryan and that. But I couldn't, not on the night. I managed to get one the next morning. Thankfully, Canelo was down when we were talking. He came down when we were talking to Ryan at breakfast. So I had a picture and a conversation with him then. So, but yeah, it's great to be around those people. And Shane has obviously huge respect for Eddie Reynoso and Canelo and Ryan Garcia and their whole team. So it's, you know, in my eyes as a fan, it's two great teams just having respect for each other at the top of the game.
Call me a cynic, right? But you know that clip of when Ryan says, "Am I the hardest puncher you faced?" to Luke? When someone asks you, does it skew the answer a bit? I don't know. I felt like Luke had to say yes. I'm not saying he isn't the hardest puncher, but do you know where I'm coming from?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's a young kid, so he wants to. He has all these questions. He's like a bit of a hyperactive kid. You know what I mean? Like he's almost, just hyperactive all the time, and just wants to know, ask questions, and willing to learn. Obviously, even after the fight, even the next day, he was like talking to Shane and listening to Shane and the things he was saying and stuff like that. He just wants to learn, and he wants to know every bit of detail we can. He'll ask every question by the looks of things. And I didn't actually know he asked that question, but I thought Luke told him he was, but I didn't realise he told him because he'd asked him. But that's interesting. But I think it's just because he wants to know. He wants to know the measure of where he's at and that belief and stuff. But yeah, I guess in that situation, Luke's kind of got to say yeah. But also, I think Luke does think he is as well, because he obviously got buzzed in the end of the 5th, and never seen Luke like that before. You know, sort of usually he's been knocked down obviously by Linares, Mendy the first fight, and Loma, but Loma was the body shot, and then the Linares one was sort of, and Mendy he got straight back up. He sort of caught himself on the way down. So and then obviously the body shot was a sickening blow. So I think Luke would definitely agree with that, regardless of if whoever asked him. I think he would say Garcia is the hardest puncher.
Let's talk about Luke. I know I think he done his Sky interview was today, brush retirement off a little bit. We know he's still elite, Luke. I think people presume that once you've had perhaps 3 shots at glory, albeit one was an interim for an interim title, that it's unlikely he'll get another. But I mean, there's still a lot left for Luke in this game. What do you think the next step will be for Luke at this moment in time?
Yeah, it's Luke's decision. He on the night he was downhearted and as expected, but he also said was talking about other options and stuff like that, like who could be next. I think it's probably one of the biggest travesties in boxing if Luke Campbell doesn't win a world title. He's far too good a boxer, and no disrespect to other people, but there's plenty of world champions out there that are much lower level than Luke. He's been stitched up every way, shape, or form. His first one was obviously against one of the pound for pound top 5 at the time in Linares, and he was unlucky to get the decision.
Is that a measure of Luke, though? Is that a measure of Luke, the man, taking those challenges when he could have waited perhaps at the time after Linares and not fought Loma? Is that a measure of Luke?
Yeah, I think so. He is willing to fight the best. He always has been that way. I think I think from how I've got to know him, I imagine that's how he's always been. He's always wanted to be the best in the world. It's not like he wants to box the best in the world, where that's enough for some people. He wants to be the best. Like after the Loma fight, it's Loma. Like for a lot of people, and even myself, it's like, wow, it's Loma. Like, so you sort of almost excuse it. Do you know what I mean? But it was one of the most down and dressing rooms I've ever been in, because after a loss, because that's just the measure of the man. He was absolutely devastated after that Loma fight. He's so confident in his ability, and same this time around. Like I said, he was distraught, and he is that sort of guy who just wants to be the best. But at the same time, you know, if things had gone other ways, where with obviously the Fortuna fight was meant to happen before Loma, I think, and then Loma fight had to happen for the vacant belt, and then he was meant to fight Fortuna again, I think, because Loma got made franchise champion, and they just gave Haney the belt to fight that Abdulev, who was like 11-0. Luke would have beat, and it's just like, why is Luke not getting these chances and these opportunities? So he has been royally stitched up, but at the same time, he's boxed some of the best fighters and really made a name for himself by boxing the best. And he's got some great wins under him as well. It's not like he's just a loser like people sort of make out. Obviously, he boxed Argenis Mendez, which is a great win. Like, he was a dangerous fight at the time. And Luke says he doesn't think he was at his best then either, even when he beat him. But yeah, I think I like to see Luke continue. You know, you look at George, who Luke's obviously friend with, George Groves, and he won it on his 4th time of asking. So maybe that'll be another story for Haney for another 4th attempter as such. So who knows? I'd love to see Luke do it, and I think if he won a world title now, it would be one of the most awesome nights because of what he's been through and all the hardships and stuff. So yeah, I think it would be a real special night when Luke does win a world title.
Just finally on Ryan, before I just want to comment to what's in the works for you in the next couple of months. Haney, Tank, how do you think he fares against those two guys? Because they've been the names touted. Obviously, there is Tio, Loma's still in the mix, whatever. But Haney and Tank are the 2 touted guys next for Ryan. So how do you think he fares in them two?
Yeah, obviously called out Tank, and personally, I think Tank's too soon. Like, why next? If I was looking after Ryan, I'd be pushing him down like a Linares route. I think that's a good fight for him. Linares is sort of at the end of his career, but he's still a very, very valid fighter. He's got had some wins recently, and obviously he's always been about, and he's a great name, but he's an easier fight than Tank, and sort of a good, like almost a better name. I think if you beat Tank now in like early days in his lightweight, he hasn't made a name for himself at lightweight, so people might start saying he's too small and stuff like that if you beat him, whereas Linares is what he is. Yeah, people say, you know, he's a bit over the hill and stuff, but he looks in good shape all the time. I think that's what I'd do if I was looking after him. I'm not. And Ryan Garcia said to us at breakfast the next morning, said, "I want Tank next. I'll beat him. I'll beat him." It's not that he can't beat him. It's just about the process of boxing. You need certain fights at certain times. He's made a massive step up, and he just wants that next fight, another big fight. So yeah, I mean, that's an interesting fight. I'd probably edge towards Tank in that fight, but only because I think he's a bit probably has less mistakes in his game. Ryan's feet, if you look at his feet when Luke knocked him down, his feet are together and he's pulling out. He doesn't really use his feet as a defense. He sort of just pulls and slips like Canelo does. But I think that needs to be worked on. But I think he beats Haney. To be honest, I think it beat Devin Haney. I think Luke beats Devin Haney. I think I wouldn't. People saying about like the top 4 or top 5 in the vision of Haney, Lopez, Loma, Garcia, and Tank. So, but I'd put Luke in that top 5 still. Even after the weekend, I know what he's capable of, and I think he'll beat at least Haney out of that lot at bare minimum.
Yourself, so that chat with Canelo, is he up for the smoke at £200 Vitality Stadium, summer 2022?
Yeah, we didn't get that far into details, into negotiations, unfortunately. We just said he came over, and I just said hello. I said, do you want to come up to cruiserweight? And Shane said like, oh, he's a cruiserweight at the same time as I said it, and he was like, I'd love to, or I love, and so yeah, I took that as a verbal agreement. Wherever it may be, who knows? It can stranger things have happened in the sport, but it would I think he was weighing about 180 at the moment, he said. So he'd have to put on a bit of weight and a bit of size, I imagine. But that'd be an honour.
I was going to say, he's taken the piss out of us Brits recently. We need someone to do a job on him, Chris. You could be the man.
Yeah, I like it how we've got to go, probably 30 pounds heavier than his natural weight to actually do a job on him. It just shows how good he is as a fighter. But it was great to meet him and get a picture with him. Do you know what I mean? I'm as much a boxing fan as I am a boxer, and to be around people like that is just awesome.
What is the actual plan for yourself? I know Eddie's on about, I think it was a 6-show schedule that he's going to bring out, and there's talks about moving fights abroad if we have to. It's a little update before I let you go on what's next for you.
Yeah, it was meant to be, I think we were looking at January 30th, then potentially Feb, but obviously January 30th show got wiped, and I think now we're looking at either late Feb, between late Feb and middle of March, around that sort of time. So I have to wait and see him. Obviously, the plan is still Dion Juma for the British title, British defending my Commonwealth as well. So that's the fight, we agreed to, and that's the fight I'd love to have, providing he's, able to recover fully from his eye injury, and he had surgery. So I hope that's all gone well. But yeah, if that isn't possible, then I'd love the Tommy McCarthy fight. So I think there from our team, that's the main 2 fights we want. But who knows? It's obviously Tommy McCarthy spoke about not wanting to hang around at this level and things like that in his post-fight interview. So maybe he doesn't even want to. He wants to move on to a world title. But yeah, as far as I know, it's Dion Juma next, and that's what I'm currently training for.
Good stuff. I'm glad it's still Dion Juma, because that is a good fight. And if it would have been on the January 30th bill, that would have been such a good bill when you look at Ryland Charlton, Florian Marku, Kelly Avanissian, which we've waited years for, it seems. So bit of a shame, but like you said, if we're going to get it, then all is good.
Yeah, that's it, mate. I think it's a great fight for the fans, and then the sort of fights, at the end of the career, you want to be remembered for being in good fights, and especially domestic fights. That's what it's about, and we're very lucky in the cruiserweight division to have all those different fighters and at the weight and doing really well.
Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free, impartial advice on all your debt.